So I did help. So I financed this book, right, for like, I don't know, 2/3 or something. So I mentioned properly in the book, and like otherwise it might have been tricky. So there would not be a book for him. And like for me, it led to the consequences that like my flatmate thought that I'm kind of a supporter of pedophiles because I financed this book. But now it is not good, the connection. Huh? Well, now let's see.
Sorry, network issue.
Yeah, but
Yeah.
so now it seems fine again. But like I don't know. Yeah. So I mean this. I got so there exists now this book. And I mean I think initially it is mostly kind of Johanna that wanted to help him specifically, but it is as well kind of an interesting case that should be discussed, right? But we are ahead, or like this book is ahead of time. This is just not the topic society is ready for. But it's kind of so I see some uh, similarities with like my book. So it doesn't matter if it's like a sports accident or corona, long COVID. So those kind of that the plans don't work out, right? It can happen to anyone. And how bad our system and like the souls around here deal with this kind of issue. So my parents are just used that, and especially the padres oder in Einsiedeln, they're just used that you like put it under the table, and that's why I kind of supported it, but it was as well to show my family that I'm now no longer, they are no longer able to control me. So like my book had to be anonymous and so on because I was dependent, and that changed. But in hindsight, I don't think I would do it again. Not because I don't think the book is worth it, but like it was not a good idea. So I didn't know that I'm not actually. So I didn't know when I supported the book that this will count towards my like 30,000 assets I have for Ergänzungsleistungen. So someone else should have supported it, and they probably wouldn't. But like for my uncle or for most in my family, that would not matter at all, right? And so I don't know. Like for me, it's actually for the most part positive. I kind of exactly wanted this attention, but the problem is that Johanna, for her, it is too much, right? So I don't really know why she wrote that book, and she's not the author. She just did the lectorat, right? So, but she cannot deal with it, and I guess the biggest so the biggest issue is that like Romano should have gotten like a psychotherapy after what happened when he was 13 years old, right? But back then, that was not even that's just how that worked, right? Back then, around here, and now they are still. So I think it's important to write down for yourself this kind of story. And initially, my book as well, like it was the first was just that I record. So it was those recordings with this. Well, one psychologist was former classmate at the gymnasium, and then with this pastoral assistant, and so that's what I paid for, that she would just organize my thoughts because I was not able to write that down on my own. And then she found this real interesting, and because of the lockdown, the other projects were not, well, those Vernissagen and so on were cancelled. And so she kind of was looking for something, and so she offered me to write a book and like continue with that, right? But this is just the first step, and I think that's what they don't get. So, like, if you cannot do, I mean, for Romano, the issue is that he doesn't get proper psychotherapy, and the problem with forensic psychiatrists and like it's always forensic in this context. So if he tells them something, they have to tell it, right, to the prison director and so on. That's of course not the same. Then you probably better don't. And he's not that clever. He doesn't really have this much like logical psychological development. So when he starts talking, he's kind of very direct and open, and this honesty doesn't help him in this context, right? So I guess those are the issues, but I would like to change it, but I don't see a way. So I actually so in the letter, so in this ChatGPT Plus letter I wrote, it was more about that I would recommend to like think it through, and because they fought for it, if he really doesn't find a way. So I think it's a big success that this was even accepted in Strasbourg. It took 4 or 5 years, I guess, until they answered, but like most cases don't even get picked up, right? And so I think you should look at the answer with the lawyer again. Maybe it's not like no in every regard, right? So yeah, like in my case, that my Anzeige in the second attempt went to the Anklagekammer. Well, that's already a success, right? So normally the Staatsanwaltschaft doesn't even look into it. So I once tried with the police, and they just write, the first thing they write is, no, our police doesn't do those things. And then you kind of would need to prove it, but if you didn't like record it and so on, you normally, yeah. So that's just like you learn by trial and error, right? So, but I mean, like, and otherwise, because not just him, but others in his situation fought, and that is a recent change as well. I think that was like 4 or 5 years ago again, that Exit in Switzerland has now access to prisons. Yeah. And I can understand if he wants to does another suicide attempt, if Exit doesn't take up his case. But now with this decision, I would expect that Exit would need to do that. But it would be tricky. And I think but it is worth it. Like, again, to just make the case, right? So, and like, I hope it gives him the courage to kind of fight But so the argument that like his mother is already old and he might even inherit something, I don't think that really matters for him at the moment, right?
Oh, he doesn't have any siblings or family members
I mean, no.
after.
After that, no. Like, even the sister committed suicide, and the others were not like. But he would never see that money himself. So, like, he would maybe be able to like donate it, or like, I guess, like, but so you are not able to like, I'm not able to send him money. That is impossible, right? So that's what my flatmate from Italy didn't understand, right? So it's not like you cannot support
Yeah,
him directly. So like that would never,
there's no way.
yeah. So, and I don't know. So ever like but it's the same. Like the the problem is that for like this Kantonsarzt in Kanton Schwyz, so this Kasper Schneider, where there is now this indictment, like he is still used to an older system from back then. So back then, it was more like in Gotham, Batman universe, an asylum. So the worst culprits ended up in the mental hospital, right? So that's not the same at all. It and like the current legislation from 2013 2014 is different. The problem is that in reality, in the mind of many, that didn't really change, right? Sadly, that's kind of, and I mean, he is not uh, um, convicted, like yes, he is a convicted felon, right? But he went to prison for that, and now he's no longer a convicted felon. So I was convicted for 8 days for my problems with the AfD, and that I destroyed the plakat and so on, right? So now that I paid, so that was just a fine, or I actually wanted to go to prison or do 8 Tagessätze in gemeinnütziger Arbeit, and I should have had the right for that, but our system doesn't work. But like now that I paid, or then this is over, right? Then that's another like point of well, but this is just not the reality. If you were in prison or if you were in a mental hospital, for most you are still like for them nothing changes, right? So that's what my motivation was in this context, right?
Yeah, he seems so right to me.
The problem is that this discussion, and there, it is not just the author of my book. You need like elephant skin to like ever deal with this. But like I'm like she gave up on my project, and that would have been much more accessible to like the like in Einsiedeln. So it's already a big taboo to talk about exit, but that would maybe have been possible in some setting with like but this with pedophilia and even a gay pedophile, that is not that is just not where, yeah, and she is kind of too honest as well, and still like believes too much in the good of people, and like such a prison director, it wouldn't work. He cannot, like, it's just not how it works. So she is not doing, some of the steps she does are not thought through. And then she has always the attachment to like the family and so on. It's no, like if I would have the option for another author in hindsight, I would change that. For me, it didn't work out, but that's another reality. Like, I was trying to find someone for 5 years before that, and since then I found well, maybe somewhat with this expose, but that didn't work out either. So it's really tricky, right? So, and there it was luck as well, because Evelyn, so the girlfriend of this regisseur and screenwriter, Dietmar, was like kind of pushing him to do that, right? And without that, they don't even answer. So like, yeah, it's just yeah.
Okay.
But now my strategy is to so that part I tried. I would have never expected in 2020 that I would kind of have the energy to try this much. It didn't change yet, except that I'm doing much better. But this has more to do with that I'm now independent of my family, and that I'm like I'm not no longer even part of the poor in Switzerland, so I'm slightly above that threshold now, and I have a stable solution here in the flat and so on. But like, what a fight this is, and if you don't have the connections, if you like, it wouldn't work. Our system wouldn't work, right? So that's, yeah. So now my strategy is more to bet on this scientific approach, right?
Mm-hmm.
Because my belief is there that will win in the longer run. I don't know if the longer run is something I will experience myself, but like a proper my background in physics, so there are a lot that never harvested directly their ideas, right? So like Einstein, for example, the Einstein ring of a black hole, that was not something that was actually has not that much to do with Einstein. It was just named after him, right?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. So I mean, that cannot be a reason to not try. And the other attempts just don't work. Like, it doesn't matter. They are so like, I mean, the best example would be, I guess, this well, first part, and it was paid, right, of this PhD with the data. Maybe we should, so because this is something ChatGPT plus understood as well, right? So there, it is really not the question if this should be published. So the result, like, this is what you have in like less than I guess 3% that you actually have a result, right? Normally those papers are about that you tried that and that and that it didn't work out, right? So,
Right.
and like there were like 5 before me that attempted the same, and it was kind of luck that we found a way to show exactly what Walter Gehring wanted. And so there is not the question if this should be published. So that's the issue is that it doesn't work if you are not kind of part of the, well, in the lead RPG fantasy books, it's always like the magistrate or something. Like if you are not part of the academic world, then it's just not possible, right? Yeah.
Right.
And I mean, the data alone that is on my Dropbox is like 12,000 Swiss francs. And I mean, that's what I'm now waiting for if this now belongs to me, because it's more than 10 years ago and no one really has kind of claims for it no longer, but no, it belongs to ETH. So if they don't answer, I will just use it as an example. Like I mean, it would be, you would expect this would be one of the like PhDs. They would like I would jump on this, right? In hindsight, but it's just outside of and then that's sadly they don't they don't care, right? So that's yeah. But in essence, what we did is so and I don't know. I think compared to like where I'm the data scientist, so the Nature paper that is published, this is much more accessible from the content, but it kind of makes it look simpler than it is. So that doesn't mean that a PhD in this field is simple, but I think to give an overview is probably a good idea. So it would be one of like evolution biology is kind of especially from the examples you see quite accessible compared to like well for this Nature paper, the data science was mostly about that you found a way to approximate the inverse of the correlation matrix, and this is already something my father has a PhD in biology. He doesn't even understand what I'm talking about, I guess, right?
Mm-hmm.
But here
So,
it should work. So I want to try this. I want to see if so ChatGPT, this part that is like not the issue. ChatGPT got it, and some of it in the same way I already presented in the book, right? So I will just do that again. So basically, you can with this method. So you have the phylogenetic trees, and then you always kind of compute estimated distance based on how the locations, so the functional locations of a genome changed, right? But that is really that a letter changes, right, in the assembly. And you have this database that is one of the bigger projects, and especially if you don't want to download the whole database, this is or I don't know, I never looked in like a while, but it's the NCBI database, and there are basically just genomes annotated from all kind of species, right?
mm-hmm.
And so then you can compare, for example, so like the ribosomal proteins, they are much closer together than like an average protein. So that's how you kind of test the method, and this was published like in the 90s or something. But it is a lot easier to do that now with a proper server and so on, right? So back then, and this was for me the most impressive, you kind of had to visualize that. So Walter Gehring was able to, like, he basically knew those letters of the, well, it's kind of the DNA, but it's like an messenger RNA or something you translate back to the DNA. But like he knew those like 8, 9 functional groups of the rhodopsin. So he knew that by heart, right? So no, those are not so yeah, like regions of protein. So like this is like like this is the. I still have a picture on my Dropbox of that. So this is like well, a series of 350 letters, right? Just the 4 letters of the DNA, and like it's slightly different for the different species. But he knew that by heart, right? So that's like, yeah, quite impressive. But yeah, and so then, well, you can show with just this method that so like you can generate the phylogenetic tree of like all species, and then you can calculate the same just with the ribosomal proteins, and there this is much closer. So like for, yeah, much closer, right? So for E. coli, this is very close to like Drosophila and so on. Other, I mean, those are not even both eukaryotes, so they are quite different otherwise, right? But the ribosomal, yeah, but yeah, so ribosomal is like, I think, just RNA, but you can translate it back to like imaginary DNA, and then you can include that as well, right? And so what we actually did, one part was to, like, from this NCBI database, they have cryptoperidium annotated. That was the one like Panzergeissler that was most interesting for Walter Gehring, because he suspected that there another like gobble up happened. So this Russian doll hypothesis, and like for so basically like a couple, definitely 100 million years ago, so several hundred million, like 700 million years ago, there was the first like algae or something that did photosynthesis, right? And then that was somehow like incorporated, that from there it started that they somehow like react to a light source, and then that was also that was not a new like development. It was just incorporated, right? So I don't know, like that you have the horizontal and the vertical gene transfer, and such an event you quite easily see when you look at the phylogenetic tree, right? And for like the eye, it's the only like organ where that really happened. So it took like 700 million years to develop the eye, but it already or that was his like hypothesis. It already well developed in the sea like that, right? So the first eukaryote already had the foundation for all the versions of eyes we have on land nowadays, basically, right? And there is maybe to compare it, there's maybe just our like organ to like imitate voices. It's another very complex, but that happened. Well, Tomka was like so that happened. I think 3 times independently. So whales can do that, and some singing birds, and humans, but already our closest relatives, chimpanzees, cannot do it. So they can learn sign language and teach that to their next generation, but they cannot imitate voices. They don't have the Zwerchfell as we do, so they cannot do that, right? But for the eye, it's even more complex, and there it's just not time enough, right, to like rediscover that. So there are other examples for like so like a squirrel and like a flying was ist das? So more like a bat, something. They look quite similar, so they both found a way to kind of fly or sail through the air, but they are completely different, right, from the ancestors, right? But yeah, so yeah, and so the problem was that the annotated version in the accessible annotated version in this NCBI database was not stressed by light proper. So it didn't express the most interesting. So that protein we were most interested in. So the ancestor of our rhodopsin. So the proteorhodopsin, and that's basically it, right? So that was costly. That was back then 12,000 Swiss francs to stress them with light, then annotate this messenger RNA proper. And so it's like the same. You can compare it with, so that is helpful as well. So you have a check for how good your assembly is. But in the NCBI database, the most important is missing. So the problem was that we had a lot of E. coli contamination as well. And so, but because of that, you were able to cure it. But yeah, so it's actually quite tricky to do this assembly proper, right? But that's the data I have, and then, well, what would have been interesting is to look into the next, so like I don't remember the names proper, and that was never mind. So something like Kapsaspora, but I'm not certain. So like one of the first eukaryoten where that came together. So that was like a sponge and this Cnidaria. Yeah, so on top of the sponge, so that is kind of how the brain started, right? You have this cryptoperidium, and now you would need to look. So we found the relation kind of randomly with one of the predecessor of a fish. So it's not really a fish, but like that is way too big of a jump, so you would actually need to look at this Kaspaspora, and that is something Hiroshi Suga's group did kind of when I took this forced break. So Walter Gang was actually kind of not that. So he found it a good strategy to wait for them to annotate this and then kind of continue. But that never happened, and that's kind of a shortcoming of Hiroshi Suga as well. But it just shows like he is even more of a just a coder and informatician. So he doesn't know much about biology. You just get an publication with impact factor for each new species you annotate, right?
Mhm.
Yeah.
You may I have very less knowledge about biological improvements nowadays. You have family members experts on it. And can you tell me some real important uh, and some dangerous about biological stuff that are people creating something different? May know something from you.
I mean, it's like always, if you know more about it, this is
Mhm,
often the best cure for like this like irrational fear, right? But
mhm.
I mean, so
Your concerning points actually. Mm, uh, Tell me some your concerning points, and
yeah,
can
I mean,
if you
like we
bring some.
learned in environmental science a lot. So there was even something with WWF, so the nature organization, right? Uh, where they talked about Gentech maize, right? So corn, but it was in German, so I don't even have. So like,
Mhm,
but do you know what I mean, right? So in Switzerland, it was a big thing, this Gentech moratorium and so on. But the biggest companies like Syngenta, Monsanto are there have especially Syngenta, like we shared the 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 microscope and so on with the Syngenta at the BSSE, so for ETH in Basel, right?
mhm,
So the infrastructure, and I would say, um, like this is real dangerous, but the issue is actually not that what like it's not that simple. It's not like it has so like a project like golden C4 plant rice would be it could be like the savior of humanity, right? But
mhm,
this would be highly changed with gene technology. We are not there yet, but no one is really trying to push that direction because that's not their goal. Is so one goal for them is the patent, right? The patent rights. So for Syngenta, and then what you basically do is you so BT mice is where you introduce a gene that the plant creates also in the leaves, right? Toxic, so kind of something that is toxic for the Maiszünsler. So the Maiszünsler is the biggest damage for the harvest of corn, right? And I mean, this undertaking is dangerous. Like, it's obvious. So like if you crossed like apples and so on. So without technology, just by like what they did over centuries, so that you have like the sweeter apple and so on. I don't know, maybe or the same with figs, right? So there are a lot of different apples we have now because that was done over well, millennia, I guess, right? The result is similar. So you kind of select for the genome you want. It takes longer, right? It is more natural that it is over like generations, but in essence, it's the same, right? The result. The problem is that Syngenta is not interested in a better corn harvest in the way you would expect. Mostly they are interested to have a patent on this grain and that this cannot be replicated without kind of stealing their idea, right? So if they were all about improving kind of I don't know, the sweetness, the taste, the something like that, it would not be dangerous. But that you bring this that you bring the gene in this way into the environment that led to tragic results, and it was predictable. So first, it worked. The Maiszünsler was like removed, right? But then you have other insects that step up to the task, and they still so then they become the ones that are the bigger problem, right? And
Yeah.
then then the birds still eat those insects, and then we have this toxin in our uh, uh, or the fishes, and so then we have this toxin in our Nahrungskette, right? So
Yeah.
the
If
yeah,
the place wrong,
and I mean
if
the other idea that worked was so like it's always that or that you bring in so immunity against like Roundup. So the your corn plants will be immune against this Pflanzenschutzmittel, and so the idea is that you just destroy everything except the immune plant. But again, this is not like this cannot be healthy, right? This kind of immunity against such a strong um, uh, toxic, so gift against plants in general, right? So this is real bad for the biodiversity and everything else, right? And then
yeah,
the
if
issue is again after several years, as expected, other plants found a way to well that's just how nature works, found a way to acquire this resistance as well, and so there are a couple real bad like other plants that grow now, and you have to apply more than just this Roundup, right? So you have to apply, yeah. So, and maybe in the longer run, this just doesn't work, I guess. And some of the results are like with so I mean it's also so like what is Baumwolle? So the one that is used in clothes. What is the term in English? So that was the most common work by the slaves, right? So those plants, Baumwolle, right? I don't know the term in English at the moment. So
Yeah.
there are many places it wouldn't work without you would have they would like it would no longer work without gene technology, but there it is less about a patent now. It's just it would no longer work, right? So and that's another like this is one of the first examples where they did that. Corn was more recent, right? So and when the patents run out after like 15 years or what that is, um, well, all the farmers that changed, they are now dependent and they cannot go back to something normal.
Yeah.
The ground is destroyed. And so those are those are, in my opinion, the most like danger when it comes to evolution biology. But if we had the goal to so like corn is a C4 plant. C4 means they incorporate one more C in this cycle da with like kind of what is that like so citratzyklus, so like kind of like that's why that's why like plants uh like in like early spring we have the highest CO2 concentration, because then it starts again that plants like trees incorporate that, right?
Mhm.
And so maize is faster, so corn is faster because it's C4 plant, so more efficient. But you would need to I don't know, put it on the sea floor that you would have an overall effect, right? So otherwise it will just be released in winter again, right? But if you could do that, and that would not be that tricky. So then rice probably would grow faster as well. And the golden rice is that it has carotene. So the problem is if you just eat rice, you go blind because you do not have enough carotene, right? And
Mhm.
so yeah, that would change a lot if you actually would switch to proper golden rice. And there it is not really a danger, because this is all edible, and even if other plants would like incorporate that or the insects eat it, there would not be an issue with that, right?
Mhm.
So the
Uh,
gene tech moratorium doesn't make sense. It's the same for me so for me, like as a with physics background, with like atomic plants, we have 50 years. There is more than 30 years left on atomic plants as well, moratorium, right? So we are not allowed to build new atomic plants at the moment. You would need to reverse that decision somehow. And I'm
mhm.
absolutely not for new atomic plants as we know them, but it would include research for like I don't know. There is not really something available at the moment, but there could be like a salt plutonium reactor instead of uranium, and like we completely um, like went away from this kind of research, and I don't think that is necessarily the right thing to do, right?
You know, so, uh, you said all of those um, already happening in the poor country. You know, good countries like Switzerland, Germany, they are uh, working good. They maintain a good regulations, but like my country here already happening um, uh, some issue with our food, with our um, uh, corpse, and you know, everything is controlling by others. And main what can I say in English, the main origin now, like 10 or 12 years ago, these are not available. Now they uh, mm, buy how, what to say, I forgot, like seeds. They buy seeds from shop. Some years ago they collect seeds and they grow from it, but nowadays these are all are cross and different. And the dangerous thing is uh, they produce that, and you know, the farmers don't get a good price when they produce things. They sell to the big companies. They collect it and they modify it and then again sell to ours. And the people tested it with heavy metals in it, but no regulations. Some good people are talking every day, but they are, you know, their limited power they have. They can change anything, but we are taking it every day. Yeah.
So I mean, like there is no easy solution, and you have to see that when it comes to those lawsuits. And I mean, a lot of people died because of what Syngenta Monsanto did and still does, right? Um,
Mhm.
you have no chance. Like they have 100 times. So the pharma has 100 times the budget of such uh, I mean, WWF, right? Even if they pool
Mhm.
all the resources and they tried that, so they're like, but this is this you and there are not that many. There are not that so it's always like um there is there is always like so I don't know in Bangladesh, are you like a lot dependent of like um I don't know, seafood or like from fishes from a lake river.
Um, uh, Lake River is mostly used as Lake River fish, but you know, from some years, India doesn't give right amount of water. That's why many river died, and then people are produce fish from project base, like a big pond, this type of, and not natural. People use the produced feeds, and different kind of food they give to fish, but these are not healthy for fish. And then finally when I ate it, you know the effects. um, Everything in the in my country, if some people has pond, they're by own pond like ourselves. We have ponds, and we produce some fish for our family. This is only good, but if you don't use extra fish or extra some medicines for the fish, then nowadays is tricky to produce something good from it, because the real original type of fish are rare. they all are type of cross or different. That's why it needs many maintenance. um, so you understand, right?
Yeah, I mean,
And yeah.
it's like that is just the problem of like we I think it's a good game for the beginning of like environmental science or this kind of studies. So it just showed that like game theoretically optimal if there is no police. So when it comes to fishing, like or water, like it's more a similar problem. I was kind of aware of that in Bangladesh, but otherwise I'm just not aware of like. But it's kind of similar as the beginning of the water wars you have in Africa as well, right? So,
Mhm.
um, like, um, well, they build a dam and produce energy, and then they tell the ones downstream it will have no effect. But if it doesn't, like if it does have effect, they can do nothing. It's always, yeah. But
My question, I have a question about that. Every revolution, in recent times, every revolution is seems very good, but they finally do wrong thing. Their goal is to do wrong. So how, what's the meaning of that revolution? The biology stuff we are talking, but everything happening is to in a bad way.
yes, it's used in a bad way. So like if you would understand that game, so that like you need a lake or the sea, you need to like reduce how much fish you sell and take. You need a lot of planning for it to recover. And then as a community, if you use that as the variable, as like the winning variable, then as a community you will do much better if you can plan ahead, right? But for the most part, is the ones that really suffer the most. It's with many of those climate problems. So the ones that get flooded because of climate change, or where the worst forest fires are, they are not the ones directly responsible. So we, the developed world, uh, produce the most CO2 equivalents, right? So, and the damage, like Switzerland, so where I'm at, will be one of the last places where you really have those issues. We have a lot of water. The ground like is it's actually probably too wet and cold. So there are other places like in Russia and Canada. If you would just look locally, it would maybe be an advantage for them, like a bit more, like well, 5 degrees more. But the problem is this is not how the economy works nowadays, right? So it's not
Mhm.
just locally solvable. And then, like, if you have this situation that you kind of depend on what India does, or like Ethiopia and Eritrea, like it's the same issue. So, yeah, what can you do? Like it's really, and China has a lot of that as well. So they just pool so the water kind of on a highway aqueduct, and like if you don't go along with the government, you will just get cut off of the water supply as a town. And yeah, so that's the harsh reality. And like I guess they are learning from it, and it could be an opportunity for like the current situation, like for example for Brazil, it's for those projects with ethanol. Like this is a big opportunity, right? So they already with the last big oil crisis that was like in the 80s, I guess, they already started to switch so that you can that you have vehicles that can run on ethanol, right? And so they are saving a lot now because of that, right? Yeah.
Mhm.
And I mean,
Um,
another positive thing would be so you could, for example, combine corn with beans. So beans
mhm,
need uh, like many so no like so like beans kind of have I mean it's not that simple, but that was tested in like gardens here. So it works. Like even beans kind of bind um, äh, Stickstoff. So um, the the one you normally have as the limiting factor for like that's why you use fertilizer, right?
mhm.
Um, and so you kind of don't need fertilizer if you combine beans with corn, for example. So stuff like, but it is a lot trickier to, or you have completely changed how you plant it and how you harvest it, and often it's like we are not really like our
Yeah,
farmers.
yeah, it's possible for like my family, my around who are listen to me and for produce some foods for them and some relatives in this way. But in natural fertilizer, there is our some more ways we have like w- we have cows and some animals. Their waste is also a good fertilizer here, but the problem is uh, they provide some cross seeds we need to buy, and when people want to business with it, they don't make profit if they use a healthy way. So people, nowadays people look into money strongly. So when they see that profit not much, then they choose again the wrong way. They are dependent on it.
But that is the same issue here. So that's exactly what I wanted to say. The problem is again we have way too much Gülle, so Jauche, exactly. Um, eben cows,
Yeah,
pigs, and
mhm.
the farmers like it's not the best for compo gas Anlage. So like if you want to use it for energy, like you need you you need the you need the high energy. Then you can stretch it with that, and there is some methane you can get from that as well. But as long as like they are not, and then we have the strange. So like Switzerland is paying a lot, in my opinion, way too much, right, to keep up a bit of independence when it comes to producing our own meat and so on. Um, and so those subventionen, they are they are not like they are not made for that. So it's not really um, uh, rewarding the most innovative and like good for the climate, good for the ground, it has other goals again, right? And so why should they switch, right? So they maximize their profitability, and they have to go for the most Subventionen. And there again, our system, our politics, like you could make it so much better with an afternoon, like overwork this with AI. It's this obviously, but this is not how it works, right? And so it's not like it's not the danger that you kind of study evolution biology or really learn about it. The danger is again what our communities, humans are making with it, right?
Mhm. And AI is helpful if you know a certain things better. If I don't know much, then AI always give a lot of ideas, different ideas, because it has a large database, but he don't know exactly what I need. And when I say something specific, then he can reply. But when I expect, give me some ideas, he's messed.
So I think the way you can work with AI is not necessarily to like apply for a job. So it can help you to get rid of like obvious orthographical mistakes and so on. But it would actually be more helpful to prepare for the
Yeah,
job
yeah.
interview. And it's not that helpful, actually. The problem is it's not that
No.
helpful, but it can maybe help you to think in that way. And then it's actually not that different from how you would have needed to approach a book like the Bible, or even more so like Bach's preachings. So it's exactly the same. You like the more you prepare, the more answers you kind of find. The problem is, of course, with AI, this is limited, but for most problems, it would be enough, right? And so it would be, yeah, but for all these kind of problems, they are this simple. So you kind of just have to look it up. The problem is that, like, if you understood how that works with the Google algorithm and so on, you were able to do that better, and you still are. But most are not. For most, for most, you always had to let me Google that for you, right? So that didn't change, right? So it's like on average, for the average woman you encounter, it could be such a potential to learn this kind of decision making, because
Mhm,
that's the way you talk with God as well. It's
mhm.
not that you just get intuition and God tells you that's exactly not how it works. You have to prepare,
Yeah,
and
yeah.
then you might have a new idea in your dream, or something like that, right?
Mhm. And when I know my goal, and I start something and I know the goal, then I can help me with some ideas, how to approach that, how many ways, or give me some advices. But if anyone don't know his goals, I can, I cannot work for him. Yeah.
Yeah, and it's not just AI. I mean, I don't use it, and
Yeah, it's not. Yeah.
especially not for that, because like I really find those answers on my own, and like but those, like the mistakes we made, and they are not like you can not undo much of it. So like there is there is this movie about insects and honey, more than honey, something like that. And
Mhm.
I mean, it, again, so for me, it was worth watching that movie. It's definitely something available on YouTube as well, but it was not new information. Again, not at all. But like you have this dependency in like for the um uh Mandeln. What is that in English? That I might even have to look up. So this is one of the most common goods from California we buy here. So those nuts, Mandeln, right? So you use that in a lot of cookies and recipes. So they are, if you don't look for, they are often from California. Now, to because there are no insects left, they have some of the most aggressive bees, so
Mhm.
they are very dangerous, and so they have to go there with like a transporter, just to because in China you have places where it is this bad that the environment is this bad that you have no insects left. So you have to do that by hand. So the Bestäubung, right? So you can play butterfly in China and you are not
Mhm.
even properly paid for it, right? So, but this work, and episode, they those bees are real dangerous, but 90% don't survive because there is so much, um, like again, chemistry involved to even have a harvest, right?
Mhm.
And so this is the result, and I mean, this is, I guess now, I don't know if this is.
I want another. I want to ask you another question about biological things, and then we will go some questions from last conversation.
So I wouldn't
Biological
even say this is biology. I would say this is more like agriculture. And there are, of course, uh, studies
Now I will ask you.
where it is all about that, right? So I would say one of the best opportunities to study would not be ETH. So that changed as well. So ETH is kind of this high elite university in Switzerland, right? So I would study this agriculture. A bachelor should be more than enough. It is more about like applying those things again, right? So I would study this at the Fachhochschule, not ETH, right?
Mhm. Um, uh, can you tell me something about Elon Musk testing some kits for our brain, so people can be so powerful about thinking, and also fix some arms, leg issues, paralysis, and different issues can fix by that chip. And even what do you take on it? Can you say something on it?
I don't know. I don't think much is actually Elon Musk. He's just very good at selling kind of not nothing, but kind of unfinished ideas, right? And so
Mhm.
most of the hype, just from my experience when it is together with Elon Musk, is like this is just the American dream. There, you don't know if it's like 10% or 30% real. They often don't know themselves. So there is,
Oh.
for the most part, not much to it. But like at EPFL, so that is the technical university, so like ETH in the French speaking part, so Lausanne. So when it comes to kind of this kind of chip, so this is like Neuralink, but I don't know.
Neuralink, yeah,
I
Neuralink, right.
don't know what actually. So that is like with those robot shows and so on. You don't know what is actually where they are actually at with that, right? So but so there is there is a chip now where you can also from EPFL. So that's something I saw like recently. And they offer, I guess, the best course in robotics in Switzerland, right? But like it basically is able to print out the stream of like what an ape is streaming now. So I guess this is somehow possible, right? And then you can use that to like just by thinking of I don't know different emotions. So you have to train it or I don't know. So opposite things, black and white, something like that. You can move around like a mouse pointer or something like that, right?
Mhm.
But the question is why, like, why would I want that someone is kind of controlling, reading my stream of thoughts?
Yeah.
And isn't it not for the most part just exactly like how it is, like how it should be? So sometimes I want the other side to kind of give a glimpse, and sometimes I don't, right? So,
Mhm.
and wouldn't it? But I mean, for if you are like ever with chronic pain, but I looked at it. So my kind of chronic pain, they have no solution at all with those
Mhm.
ideas, none whatsoever. So you will
Mhm.
first be able to kind of replace a full dream before you can actually deal with
Mhm.
this kind of pain that still has like my pain might be there might be this chronical component, but it's still um, for the most part mechanical as well, right? It just is like that for a decade now, more than a decade actually, right? So yeah, but it's not something you can just override because then you still need that. Like I would sleep much worse overall if I wouldn't wake up if it goes limp, right? So there is a point for pain, of course, right? Or or those kind of signals. So I don't again I don't see I just don't see the point of like and at some point Elon Musk's bubbles will burst as well. There is just not enough behind it no longer that
Mhm.
this will work. So I and like even if you can give back vision to a blind person, yes, that would be well. But that's not the main. That's not like again. This is not the main motivation they have, right?
Okay. So I want to know, how do you separate coincidence from real evidence?
So that was then the well that was exactly the the experiments I did with my project, right? So that's where I started with how you distinguish evolution from this that you just gobble up the DNA. So,
Mhm.
like when it happens by uh, so that doesn't mean it could still be that every coincidence you had, every mutation is kind of influenced by God, right? But it's
Mhm.
just like to distinguish that. So even like you have a mutation rate based on so you can define a distance, right? And
Mhm.
so that's the same problem basically, and then it's another not enough uh, understood effect. So with the placebo, when it comes to those uh, kind of drugs and so on, antidepressiva, so those kind of drugs, I was. Sadly involved with because of so in a mental hospital they will test a lot of those on you, right? So
Mhm.
a solid trial would need to look like compare it to the placebo pill, so it has a huge effect on um, me probably as well. So if you get it presented from the psychiatrist, it's not the same as nothing. It's an empty pill, right? So it's like water instead of the Wirkstoff. And so you would actually need to test it compared to that, not to nothing. And this is something they didn't even um, think about until like the 80s, I guess, right? And it's a lot
Mhm.
more costly. And often the result is that it helps, but the placebo, if you properly could do the placebo, there are surgeries and so on where it is actually better than um, the surgery they do, right? So if the people just get put to sleep and they don't know, so you even have to fake the wound, that can be better than actually doing something at the knee, right?
Mhm.
Because it gives them motivation to like do the exercises properly again and so on. So that is all part of placebo, and it's not yet it's just not yet tested properly, right?
Yeah.
But this is obvious. That is not hard to kind of distinguish, right? So this has more to do with the mindset, but
Mhm.
it doesn't work if you like if you tell them that they are just uh, that it's just water. Of course, it doesn't work, right?
Mhm.
So it's
Yeah.
often tricky to yeah, but also there are so like lithium or Demesta has an effect, and you would quite easily be able to notice the difference, right? There are some quite heavy drugs involved, right? So it's not all, but yeah, for yeah, and so that is a kind of scientific approach to look at that problem. And then um, you have those statistical tests, right? So if you want to know the quickest way, so with that's where my father was coming from with this example. If you want, like you have a virtual cube or roulette, it's basically the same, right? Um,
Mm.
um, if like you have a game where the situation, like a specific number selection wins, and that was the situation on some poker sites, right? So they helped out some big losing players, like they kind of tinkered the cards in their favor, stuff like that, right? So that they would deposit more, stuff like that. So how do you test for that? So that's exactly the same issue, right? Um,
Yeah,
and there, if you don't have a lot of information, so that you um, have this null hypothesis that the game is fair or someone is cheating, there this Fisher test is what my father recommended, right? And I think it's one of the best tests if you don't have enough information. So it's actually similar. So, like, if you look at the topologies of those tests, and this is definitely something that is for my father blasphemy as well. But like, you like this is like again uh, mathematics. So like you can kind of visualize which test like converges, and you can kind of look at that. But it's like, yeah, that's quite tricky, right? So there is, yeah, but I mean, to do the test and to um that is really, really simple, right? So that is not
mhm,
something you need to study to fill out. So when the problem is given as such, defined as such, it's really simple. There, that I would have easily grasped in elementary school.
yeah, got it. I want to know what exactly do you mean by scientifically showing God exists? And if you want to prove scientifically, then where the part, what is the part of, for philosophy is there? um, I know already that there also a philosophical part, but if we prove as i- i- if you exactly um, give me some meaning about scientifically, then I want a part for philosophy. And how do you want to connect it, or or separately you mean want to prove it scientifically?
So like there is no proof philosophically. It's always something like Gödel did. Um, and that is kind of, I guess, the present level of it as well. So you kind of argue that positivity has the intrinsic Eigenschaft, so it exists. It's part of positivity that it exists. But like this is just a claim, and that for Gödel it didn't work. Like he didn't claim he showed that God exists. He just showed that if positivity has this Eigenschaft, then this would work. Then you would have a logical God construct that works.
Mhm.
And so there is not. I don't think there is, like, when it comes to like philosophy, logics has kind of is part of, like, all sciences are kind of branches of philosophy, right?
Yeah, sometimes it comes to my mind that um, the real philosophy, when the genuine, when it works, seems like from Allah, by God, then it will proven by scientifically, or it will prove with scientifically. So I sometimes I think science have some limitations, or it evolving, and sometimes it seems to me science already evolving, but they wants to move a wrong direction. Can you say something on my thinking?
I mean, I don't know. So like for me, especially psychology is a scientific branch of philosophy, and it was kind of defined by Chernyshevsky. So like those thinkers, right? Um,
Mhm,
that there is stuff like what you told in the last call. So like that you have OCD, so Zwangsstörung, and then you kind of yeah you change I don't know you calm down you get away from like the tricky um mental health situation um
mhm,
then that disappears, right? So that's a result, right? So you can treat that scientifically. So you would
mhm,
then look into was there um, something uh, part of the field of psychology that produced this result. So you can think empirically, you can think scientifically in psychology. It's not
mhm,
what they are used to for the most part. And so that's another issue. So, like, for the most part, the psychologists and even worse, the psychiatrists encountered, they are not able to think scientifically, right?
mhm,
But um, it's not like, I mean, it's not like why like the idea that I even did those experiments like that is hard to explain. But once you do them, and it's
mhm,
actually not that hard to understand, I guess, right? But there I
mhm,
don't get like you don't understand it, I guess. You look at what ChatGPT kind of tells you about it, and that is the problem. That is not the same as like understanding it on your own, right? But it's
mhm,
probably the way to I don't know. Like for me, this is I don't know. Like it's a similar. So the example is exactly like if you have a game where you win with the six,
mhm,
then um, like what is the likelihood if you see 5 times in a row a six that so this is a hypothesis and then you have this test, right? um, that the opponent is cheating.
mhm,
So, like, perfectly cheating that he just throws on the sixes because he makes the most money. It would not be the best strategy because it would be this obvious. Everyone would quit and no one would
mhm,
play, right? But so what like I mean, if you see also just the normal cube with six sides, right? What is the like and so you can this you can use this example for the Fisher test, right? But here you can kind of easily look at the distribution and so on. Like I know roughly if you do 10,000 throws, the expected value is roughly 50%. Um, so if it was sports betting, there would be the fair odds that there is a series of five sixes in a row.
mhm,
And this is not that tricky, especially especially if you have something like Mathematica or something, right, available. to ask nowadays. It is, but that's why you have to have so like in a that's why you have those distributions to look up, right? But the probability to is easy to calculate as well. So to throw 1/6 is 1/6, and to throw 2 in a row is this. So it's just this squared, right, and so on. And now, like, the like if you get the result that there were 5 sixes in a row, the explanation is either that someone is cheating and can just do that, right? Or it was insanely lucky. It was what you would expect as an outcome if you play 10,000 times, right? And so that's not really like, there is not really a lot of philosophical depth there, right?
Right.
So it's like the problem is just if you know it's a game where you cannot cheat, how do you explain that? That's basically all. And then I mean, I chose a game that is in theory possible, as I understand physics, that God could like influence it, right? And so, but it was all like it's kind of a mix of that. This was the only thing available in my boredom, and the kind of biggest help was that, I mean, you like, this is not like ever like, if God exists, then coincidence and Bell theorem and so on, I guess it's kind of invention of God, or it is like that. I don't know. God came up with the universe, and at some point, humanity existed, and God was kind of impressed. It could be that way as well, right? And so like
It's a lot of
the question, like, the other thing is that the game I played were that because I had kind of similar the Zwangsstörung. So like my kind of biggest regret was that I didn't look into this proper. So in the mental hospital visit 2020, I had a lot of time. I even remember that I kind of showed this. So Marcos, like I talked to him quite recently again, and so on. And but then I stopped. I didn't. Didn't do this until I was waiting and for the reha. So not mental hospital visit, and it's just like that is something I wanted to do before. Like ever, I don't know. Like this is for me completely understandable. This is not kind of psychosis, but I don't know, I guess most in my family, they are more like Romano. They, like, when they really no longer want to live, then they stop kind of playing this kind of that's probably different, but I was always like that, right? So I don't like. Why would I stop? Like, the problem is that all questions, in the longer run, I would answer with in those years and and 2021 definitely as well. Well, the solution, I thought it through, is with exit. And so the question is more, what do I do before I do it with exit? And it's actually not that different from, I had the same situation when my godfather kind of had to tell me that it is likely that I have just like 2-3 years left with this
Mhm.
tumor. So that was basically the reason I started with my poker career right back then. And it was for him, I guess, the bigger issue to tell me that's just how he is, right? And then and it actually was for me, because like for me this was just a new situation, and I would not have continued it like it was not the first on my. So if I had really 2-3 years left to live, I would have never even attempted to continue with physics.
Mhm.
I probably would not have played poker either. I would have, I don't know, you would have, I don't know, made a big party or something. I don't know, right? To try that before, yeah, and then it changes, and it's nothing, and this is kind of psychologically really difficult, not just for my godfather, for me as well. And like all the doctors didn't even think about that this would be a case where it might be a good idea to with psychological assistance. This is just how like those are the mistakes, not it's on that level. The biggest mistakes are these obvious, right?
Mhm. Um, yeah. So can we make a schedule for call tomorrow again?
Yes. So around the same time should work. Yeah.
Yeah.